Hey guys, this is Jon Le Tocq here from fitnessroadtrip.com. As you know, I'm travelling around the world interviewing as many people as I can from sort of different training backgrounds, nutrition backgrounds. And the guy I've got with me today is a guy, Rob Jones, who I've been training with here at Gym Jones, no relation name-wise. As you may know, in 2010 I cycled across America. It was about 3,300 miles and I thought I was pretty cool in doing that. I then met Rob, and it turns out he's also cycled across America and managed to make it 5,180 miles. Now that's pretty cool anyway, but there's a key difference with Rob. Rob actually lost his legs in I believe it was Afghanistan, was it, Rob?
Yep, sang in Afghanistan.
So Rob actually cycled the entire distance across America with his prosthetic leg. So we're going to sort of talk about the journey through that, the mindset as well. For me, that's a massive thing. Obviously, we want to talk about the training and everything else, but obviously this is such a sort of a new situation. So, Rob, can you just tell us a little bit about your background and obviously what happened out in Afghanistan?
Oh yeah, sure. I'll hit you with the key points. I was a U.S. Marine. I did 2 deployments, Iraq in 2008 and Afghan in 2010. I was hit by a landmine, IED, in July of 2010. I did about a year and a half of rehab. I was a double above the knee amputee. I took up the sport of rowing, and I got a bronze medal in the Paralympics 2012 for the mixed double sculls, trunk and arms. And after that, I did another season. We got 4th place at World Championships in 2013. And that fall, I started the bike ride across America. You said 5,180 miles, 6 months. Finished that in the spring of 2014, and then I took up triathlon after that with the intention to qualify for 2016 games, but I wasn't able to do that. So now I'm just kind of training to see what I want to do next.
Cool. Okay, well, let's start with the ride, because obviously it's something that, having done it myself, I understand the difficulties having legs. You know, obviously the first thing you think about cycling is obviously your legs. So first of all, how many miles a day were you doing for the journey? Did you have like a solid average?
Yeah, I started out doing 30 miles a day. And if I had been trying to do it for time, maybe I could have done more.
Yeah.
But if I was feeling really good, I might have done some extra.
So how many hours were you doing each day?
It probably would have been 4 or 5, depending on terrain, 4 or 5. But that's including, well, I guess that was probably cycling time was about 4 or 5 hours total. But then as I got, maybe after the first third was done, I started doing 35.
Yeah.
And then I finished with that number, doing about 35 a day.
Okay, so where did you start and finish?
I started in Bar Harbor, Maine. I cycled down to Richmond, Virginia. I cycled over to San Francisco. And then I finished at Camp Pendleton, which is just a bit north of San Diego.
So that's how you really did a lot more miles than I did, because you've got that extra bit. It wasn't really straight across.
Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah, I did down the coasts, so that I had that stuff on purpose.
All right. So one of the first things I remember was the very first day, my right knee absolutely killing. I think it was a biomechanical issue. Obviously, things are a little bit different for you. How did it work for you? Was it did one set of legs get you across the whole way, or did you have sort of reserve legs? How does it work?
Yeah, no, I had to get maintenance on the legs. Let me think. See, my issue at first was my cleat was wearing out, so I wouldn't stay clipped in. So eventually I had to get new cleats. So that was the first thing that broke down. And then I have these bands that go over the top of my leg, my prosthetic leg. Those would wear out maybe after a month or so I'd have to replace those. And then the legs themselves would wear out at the joint because the metal that the leg is made of is softer than the screws that hold it together, so the screws would kind of wear away at the metal, so then I'd have to replace those too. So I think I probably went through maybe two or three legs, 2 or 3 prosthetic legs, and then 5 or 6 bands.
Right.
And a couple.
So did you have a support team with you, or was this like you'd stop at different places along the way to get these legs, or? I guess
well, I started out with no spares, but usually I'd be able to make it so that my prosthetist would be able to mail me an extra leg ahead of time.
Okay.
So he'd mail it in front of me. But I did have a support truck. My brother was driving this U-Haul that we kind of retrofit so that we could sleep in.
Right.
But that was it. It was just me in the front and then my brother driving the truck behind me.
Cool.
And then I had other people supporting me with, I had a couple sponsors. Bulk Breaker Energy Bars gave me a bunch of energy bars. And then Hilton Hotels ended up sponsoring me hotels. And
cool.
I had a team of people that were helping me coordinate interviews and trying to get the word out because I was raising money for charity.
Yeah. So what do you think were bar the obvious, what were the key differences sort of physically and mentally for you? Because obviously you had no quads, no hamstrings, no calves. How does it affect the actual sort of mechanics of it?
Yeah. So besides not having the quad muscle, I was just slower overall, just because I don't have that extra musculature.
Yeah.
Going up hills would be tricky because with the way that I mount the bike, I can't get back onto the bike going uphill if it's too steep. Maybe slight uphills I can, but if it's a significant, so I can't just like halfway up Monarch Pass stop and then just get on in the same way. When I was going over Monarch Pass, I did stop a bunch of times, but I'd have to stop in places where I could either ride back down for a few seconds, turn around and start going back up, or if they had cutoffs, I could pull in there and it would be flat, so I could kind of mount there. There's just extra considerations like that I had to keep in mind.
So obviously it means a lot to me, but can you just explain what Monarch's Pass is actually like in terms of elevation?
I think it's 10,800 feet, something like that. And it's about it's 6% grade, pretty steady.
Yeah.
For about 6 miles, so it's a pretty tough climb. If you're good, you can probably do it without stopping. I probably stopped. I stopped several times. I don't remember how many times, but for me, it was extra stressful because it was snowing a lot, so I wasn't sure if I was going to be able to get up over top and back down.
Right.
I don't know if I was going to be stopped by snow, but it just worked out. The day that I was supposed to be going over the mountain, the roads were cleared. There was an avalanche, but it wasn't anywhere near us. But yeah, so I had that little bit of extra concern about the snow.
Yeah.
But it didn't end up being too much different, but it was a tough climb.
That seems
Not
to be
the toughest, I don't think, but probably second toughest that I did.
That seems to be a common theme. Like we did ours, we started in August, and then we were going through the Rockies, I think it was towards the end of October, and everybody was saying to us, you're mad, you shouldn't be doing it. I know you had the same thing, and it was obviously a lot worse for you. You had snow and pretty bad weather at times. Do you think is that kind of a Marine mentality? Because in the Marines you don't get to choose the weather, you don't get to choose whether you operate or don't operate, or is that just who you are as a person?
Well, I think who I am as a person is a product of my experiences in the Marine Corps, my experiences in other life events. But yeah, I definitely think that has something to do with it, being in the Marine Corps, and just we were going to go do something regardless of how the weather was. But then you could also say that I learned that from Jim Jones, because they would say the same thing. You're going to go. If I decide that I'm going to go cycle across America, then I'm going to do it regardless of what the weather is. So it's just a matter of deciding you're going to do something, and then.
So if we take a few steps back, then who was Rob before all of this happened? Obviously, what happened in Afghanistan. How were you training, and what sort of stuff were you doing before everything happened?
I was just doing workouts off the Jim Jones website, to be honest. I was just trying to be in shape for the PFT and for deployments. I found the athletic world fascinating, but I didn't really have any intention to, try and make the Olympics or anything. I don't think I really had I didn't have a good head start on it. I hadn't been training for a sport or anything, so I found it was interesting, but I was just training for deployments and PFT.
So can you tell us a bit about? I shouldn't laugh because I know obviously it was a tough situation, but it was another guy, Dan Jones, was also involved, and I gather you guys were workout partners. And one of the first things you were talking about in intensive care was how you were going to change your workout system and workout routines.
Yeah, well, that was important. It was important because we were workout buddies, and our last names were Jones. So we called ourselves Jones Gym.
Right.
Or the people that we deployed with kind of started it, and then we just kind of went with it because we were doing Jim Jones workouts, and they just called us Jones Gym. But that was one of my first things I wanted to be able to do, was be able to work out and do that kind of stuff again. So I mean, I think we were both kind of high on morphine at the time we were sending those messages, but obviously what's that? A sober man's words a drunk man's words or a sober man's thoughts. So obviously, that was important to both of us.
So from that point on, then, was there anything in particular, like any kind of deadline that you had in terms of being back on your feet and getting back into, or as close as you could to what you were doing? Was there anything that really fired you up?
There wasn't much of a deadline as far as finishing rehab. I wanted to get it done as soon as possible. But I also wanted to make sure I did it right, so I wasn't in a super big hurry. But then when I decided to try and do the Paralympics, there kind of started to be a deadline, because I decided to do the Paralympics in the fall of 2011, and the Paralympics were summer of 2012. So we kind of had to get started training for that. And I was able to do some of that while I was in Washington, D.C., and I was in rehab, but I wasn't able to do it full time. And I knew that if I wanted to make a good run at it, we had to train full time. So there was kind of a deadline there, but I was pretty much ready to be done anyway. It was just waiting for paperwork to go through so I could retire.
Okay. And something else that really interests me is I'd actually heard about this in a book. I forget the name now. I think it's how the brain that changes itself, about phantom pain, and how when you've lost a limb, you can almost still feel the pain even though the limb's not there. Can you explain a little bit about that and like the experiences you had with it?
Well, there's phantom sensation, which is the feeling of limb. So I can, like right now we're talking, I can kind of feel my feet.
Right.
They're kind of tingling right now.
Okay.
And that's kind of a constant. I can kind of feel them, but obviously they're not there.
Yeah.
Where phantom pain comes in is when, I don't think anybody really knows what causes it, but obviously the brain is set up to think that you're going to have feet down there, so it's trying to send signals. And sometimes when it sends those signals, it just comes back as it just registers as pain.
Right.
And I get very minimal phantom pain, like every now and then my foot might hurt for a few seconds. That's about it.
Right. Or
it might itch for a while. But there are some people that have pretty severe phantom pain. I don't know how constant it is for people. Usually it kind of comes and goes, but then sometimes when there's weather out, when there's like a low pressure system coming in, that can tend to set off people's phantom pain for some reason. But I'm lucky enough I don't really suffer from it too poorly.
Wow. Actually, on the subject of pain and different types of pain, obviously you talk about Jim Jones, and it's where I've been for 2 weeks now, and pretty much every session involves a fairly high degree of pain in some level. Have things changed for you in terms of, I imagine having now sort of lost your legs and you don't get the same sort of leg pain you would have from a Jim Jones workout. Does it almost become something you embrace now, that the fact that the pain that you feel in your upper body, you can actually still feel that, and it's almost it's nice to feel that?
Yeah, I mean, I mean, you're kind of saying it's just good to be alive.
Yeah.
Basically.
Yeah.
It's good to have feelings, and it's good that I'm not
Yeah.
a lot worse off. So, yeah, I would definitely say that. And yeah, I wish I would accept the pain that I feel in a workout in order to have the capability to feel that pain.
Yeah, yeah.
Like I would be fine with doing a workout and having my calves burn if I could have my calves back.
Yeah.
But it's not going to happen. So yeah, I just kind of embrace what I do have and do what I can with that.
Right. So what does a training week look like now then? I know you say you've been doing a lot of triathlon training. Are you still doing that, or is that now stopped because you didn't make the Olympics? Or
yeah, no. Now that I'm not gonna make the Paralympics, I'm not doing full-time triathlon training anymore. I was doing that twice a day, 6 days a week. Lots of cycling, running, and swimming, and you'd imagine. But now I'm just doing like aerobic running. I think I might get into marathon running, so I'm just kind of building my aerobic system up and all that stuff, and trying to get some of my muscles back that I had to get rid of for triathlon.
Yeah.
Like when I was rowing, I was a lot bigger.
Right. Also, another question I had was more on in terms of energy usage, and without stating the obvious, you've obviously lost almost like half your muscle mass. How does that affect how much you need to eat? Are you still effectively using the same amount of energy, but obviously it's being processed through the upper body? How have you found things have changed on that front?
I don't know, because I didn't really count the number of calories I was eating before I was injured. I can tell you that I was training 16, 17 hours a week over the past couple years doing triathlon.
Yeah.
And I was eating anywhere between 2,200 to 2,500 calories on average. Maybe sometimes more, sometimes less.
Yeah.
And I don't know what an able-bodied athlete training 16 to 17 hours would probably be eating over 3,000.
Yeah.
I would imagine. So I don't know. I don't have any data on this or anything, but I would imagine that I probably don't require as many calories just because, like you said, I lost a lot of the muscle mass.
Yeah. Okay, on the last one on training, one of the things that has fascinated me about watching you training is how you do your deadlifts. Can you just explain to the guys sort of how you set that up? So I know obviously for a lot of people it's, if they've got an injury, they'll just leave that exercise out. You obviously don't really have that choice because it's not something that's going to come back as such. So can you explain how you do your deadlifts?
Yeah, well, I just wanted to be able to do deadlifts again in rehab. So I was just kind of pondering how I could do it, and I can't do a normal deadlift. I do straight leg deadlifts.
Is that just a balance factor? Or?
Right. So I can't squat down.
Yeah.
So I don't have anything that would bring me. It's just I don't have the muscles to squat down, and just because of the prostheses. So I thought, well, okay, maybe I can do straight leg. But again, there's a balance issue because I can't really lean forward easily and hold myself there. So I devised this system where I basically just strap myself to a pole or a squat rack or just something that can hold me up.
Yeah.
And that keeps my balance. And then so I just lean down at the waist and pick the bar up and do a straight leg deadlift. So it's not quite a regular deadlift, but it does the job.
And you set all of this up yourself. You never really seem to be having any assistance in the gym, or you're pretty self-sufficient as things go.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I mean, I get it out. I get the bar and put it all on. And sometimes putting the weights on is a bit of a pain in the butt, but this is how it is.
So is that by choice? Because I know some people, when they've had injuries like this, they get frustrated when other people. It's almost like other people. They want to help you more for their benefit, so they kind of feel good. Is that something that frustrates you? Do you prefer to just be left to your own devices?
Yeah, I don't mind if somebody wants to help me put the weights on. I don't care. Because I know I can do it myself if I need to.
Yeah.
So if somebody says, "Hey, can I help you out?" I'm saying, "Yeah, sure, go ahead."
Cool.
I don't mind letting people do me favors just because I know it. Yeah, it does help. It does make them feel a little bit better, but it helps me out too. And so we're helping each other. Like me allowing them to do me a favor is like me doing a favor for them. So it's kind of we're helping
so long
each
as
other.
you get the lifts done.
Yeah, and it doesn't matter. You know, if somebody wants to help me, I could put the weights on if I really needed to. But if somebody helps me out, then fine.
Cool. So what? Obviously, I kind of know the answer to this, but what sort of sessions are you doing at the moment? Like, if you can just give an overview for someone who doesn't really know a lot about Jim Jones. What if you tell us sort of maybe like 3 kind of workouts that you would do in a week?
Yeah. So now that I've recently changed my goals to get some muscles back, I'm doing a lot of just high volume. Like one of Maximus's favorite combinations is 10 by 10 or something. Yeah. So and that's what he was having me do for rowing. He would have me do 10 bench press and then 10 pull-ups, and then just rest as walking back and forth in between each. So I've been doing a lot of that. It's doing different combinations like 10 deadlifts, 10 feet to hands, and then like that workout we did today where just do tons of pull-ups and push-ups and dips.
Yeah.
So that's what I've been doing in the gym, mostly that kind of stuff. But outside of the gym, I've just been doing, you know what the Maffetone method?
I've heard of it. I couldn't tell you.
It's an endurance training philosophy, where basically his equation for finding your maximum aerobic heart rate is to take 180 and subtract your age.
Yeah.
So I've just been doing that, just trying to build up my aerobic system. So I'll go out for 45 minutes, an hour at the moment to and just run it around, between 145 and 150 heart rate. Yeah. Just keep it in there.
So you don't have any, like when you go out on these runs, you don't have anybody coming with you. It's all just you're on your own.
I just do it by myself. I did everything. Yeah. I had a swimming coach that would look at my swimming technique for me. When I was running and riding bikes a lot, I would just go out. And I'm very selective on where I go. Like I try and avoid traffic because when you're training, traffic just isn't conducive to good training anyway. But yeah, I'm just by myself.
I remember when we went to cross America, and one of the worst things was some of these massive American trucks that just go flying past. And I remember one day there was a guy. I swear on my life, he actually diverted almost across the road and back in, just to sort of shake us up a little bit. There was the way he did it, and it was hard enough to balance. Knowing I have like legs to stop me if I was going to come off. Like, was that something that worried you or ever affected you?
Balance, yeah, definitely. Because like if my chain came off when I was going uphill, I'd fall over.
Right. Did that happen?
Yeah, several times. Or it's just if I have to stop on a dime really quick.
Yeah.
It takes a second to clip out for me.
Yeah.
And then
I can't do it properly.
To extend, and then to catch myself. So, depending on how fast I had to do it, I might just fall over, or I might be able to do it. Depending. But those trucks can be scary, man. My least favorite thing about the trucks would be when I was riding into a headwind and a truck came by. It would be like a little extra headwind for you because it'd be pushing against it. I never felt like I was going to get hit by them, but. I had a big truck behind me, so that truck kind of protected me from people hitting me from behind.
Right, yeah. There was a day in Kansas, I remember, and I've never seen anything like it. It was actually like they built a house and put it on the back of a truck and were transporting it through Kansas. And when that thing went past, it was like a hurricane. The backdraft, crazy.
Yeah, they do that. The prefabricated houses. Yeah. Build the house and then they'd ship it somewhere. It
was like the Wizard of Oz, like this house just blowing down the road.
Yeah, so it's kind of nice when they go past you because they give you a little boost.
Yeah.
But when they're against you, they give you that little bit of headwind.
Yeah.
And yeah.
So where do you see things now then for the next few months, next few years? Have you got any big crazy plans, or are you just running with it for the moment?
I have some ideas of what I want to do. I have. One thing I'd like to do is break the marathon world record for a double above the knee amputee.
Wow.
I'd like to run the Comrades Marathon. Do you know what that is?
No.
That's the marathon down in South Africa. It's supposedly the oldest marathon in history or in the world. But it's 50 miles, so.
Right.
That's
not the. Is that the coast to coast?
I don't think it's coast to coast. I know it goes 1 year. It alternates years, so 1 year it goes up to one city, and then next year to go down to the other city. So they're kind of like switching back and forth the direction that it goes.
Okay, that must be something different.
But supposedly, I just think it'd be cool to go down there, and it's the oldest marathon, so it'd be kind of cool to go run that.
So what sort of times you say about the world record? What sort of time is that?
I think the current world record's 2:40.
Wow, that's crazy.
I think that's a 6-minute mile.
Yeah.
Maybe a 6:01 or something like that for the entirety. So yeah, but these are obviously multi-year goals that I'm just, it's important to have something that you're working towards.
Now, how do you feel about I know there's been certain arguments in the Olympics and these big races, like do prosthetics actually help? Do they take you beyond what you could have done before, or are they more of a hindrance? Have you got any thoughts on that?
Depending on the level of amputation. So, for example, when I was racing triathlon, I noticed that I had an advantage on the run versus single above the knee amputees, because I could run a lot smoother, whereas they were kind of running like this lopsided gait where their running economy was so much poorer than mine. I could just cruise past them, so I would destroy them on the run.
Yeah.
But then they had an advantage over me because they were single above the knee amputees on the bike, so they had that one intact leg.
Of course, yeah. Okay.
So they would just crush me on the bike, and then also on the swim because they were longer, so they had better hydrodynamics. But I think you're probably referring to the Oscar Pistorius thing, and with below the knee amputees, I do think it is possible that there's a bit of an advantage, just based on the stuff that I've read. There's a guy that did a really good analysis of it on, it's called sportscientist.com.
Right.
And he does a lot of data in there. So I don't think a double above the knee amputee would have an advantage over an able-bodied runner, but I could see the possibility that a double below the knee, depending on the level of amputation, could, just because you would be able to swing your legs through faster and therefore have a higher stride rate. And I think he was actually able to stay in contact with the ground for a shorter period of time.
Right.
And those two things are two very big things on running speed.
I
think it's possible.
I wonder with something like the marathon in particular, I think especially when you see outside of the realms of the elite athletes and perhaps some of the top amateurs, I think a lot of the problems for the runners is more the strength and the biomechanics go towards the end of the race, and it almost becomes less about fitness and more about whether you can just keep your legs moving. I wonder whether in a situation like that, do you think it would help in that in some ways it takes that problem out of the equation?
Yeah, I don't know, man. It's possible.
Then I guess you could still suffer from, especially if the amputation's at a different level. Would it affect your hips in some way?
Not in this particular case, just because you can make the limit, the whole limits. You can make each limb the same length with the prosthetics, so it wouldn't matter that much. But yeah, if I was running lopsided, then for sure. But I mean, that's a good point. I'm not really sure. On one hand, you have the musculature that's propelling you forward, but on the other hand, you don't have as much musculature, so maybe you're more economical or you're not using as much energy. So I would probably lean a little bit more towards there not being an advantage for double above the knee, but I mean, I have no data or studies to go off of, so I can't really say.
Yeah.
I mean, I know I am a lot faster than a lot of able-bodied people, but I train a lot more than them, so.
Yeah. Cool. All right, so just taking a little bit of a different tack now. Obviously, funnily enough, today it is Memorial Day. How does that make you feel? I mean, obviously, I'm sure you've lost friends And also, how does it make you feel that you were obviously very, very close to being sort of one of those guys? How does that feel on a day like today?
Yeah, well, I'm lucky enough I haven't lost any friends, so
Oh, good.
that's a good thing. But yeah, it's a day to reflect on how thankful we all should be to live in a nation where we have people that are willing to go out there and sacrifice, and even as much as their lives. And yeah, it makes me thankful that I had the people around me that put the tourniquets on my legs, that kept me from bleeding out, and the surgeons, and just that whole unit as a whole that got me back out and to where I am now. Yeah. So yeah, it's just a great day to think about how lucky we are that we have people like that.
I heard there's a great quote. One of your pals on one of your videos said, "A soldier doesn't fight for what he hates in front. He fights for what he loves that he left behind." I think that's an awesome quote for a soldier. Is this something that sticks with you in terms of a training mindset as well? Because I think a lot of people almost go into training running away from something. They're overweight. I know a lot of runners. They say it's almost like a drug to get past certain life problems and so on. Is it something that still sticks with you day to day?
Yeah, I mean, there's always. I think we're always going to be stronger when we're fighting for something that we care about.
Yeah.
Like if you're fighting somebody that wants to kill you, you're probably not going to fight as hard as if you're fighting somebody that's trying to kill your wife or your mother or your brother. So yeah, I think if you're running or training for something that's important to you, that is beyond yourself, that is going to bring out the best.
Yeah.
It's probably going to bring out more than if you're just running just to lose weight or just feel better about yourself. Like say you're running for charity.
Yeah.
Because when you're running for charity, you're not going to accept excuses on a day-to-day basis. Whereas if you're just running to lose weight, it's like, well, okay, I won't lose 5 pounds this week, but I'll lose 4, and that's okay. So you might rationalize a little bit more.
Yeah. Do you think in terms of the mindset stuff as well, Gym Jones is notoriously a very closed place, but I think for some people that can almost come across as too elitist, as if it is very military in there. And I think actually once you get in there, you realise that yes, it's tough, yes, it's hard, yes, you're going to be pushed, but the camaraderie is something that I've particularly enjoyed over the last couple of weeks. Do you think that's something that's important to you now that you don't have the same sort of camaraderie that you had when you were in the Marines? Is it in some way a replacement?
I wouldn't necessarily call it a replacement, but it certainly is important. I mean, that's why I joined the Marine Corps, was to have the camaraderie, and having like-minded people around you that are just willing to work as hard as you are and kind of work towards the same goal, and are going to be accepting of you and you're accepting of them. That's an important thing to have in your life. So whether it's at Gym Jones or if it's in the military, I think it's essential.
Yeah. Right, well, I don't have any more questions for you, Rob. So first I want to say thanks for inspiring me the last couple of weeks. I know a lot of people will be inspired by this as well. Obviously, again, Memorial Day, thanks for everything you've done on that front. Is there anywhere like the guys can find out more about you, like a website you want to send them to?
Oh yeah, my website's robjonesjourney.com.
Yeah, I'll post that link with this video as well. I'm sure if there's anybody who's in similar situations, is it okay for them to contact you, maybe get some words of inspiration?
Yeah, I've got a contact page on there. Send me an email, I respond to them. So, sure.
So again, that's robjonesjourney.com.
Yeah.
Cool. Well, man, thanks for your time, and obviously I'm going to look forward to seeing you in the gym for next week.
Yep, I'll see you tomorrow.
Nice one. Thanks a lot, Rob.